All right, welcome to the deep dive. We've got that stack of sources you sent over.
Yeah, quite a pile.
It's all about how new technologies, burst onto the scene, how they clash or maybe collaborate with the old guard.
And the patterns that emerge from all of that, and it's quite predictable in a way.
Right, the dynamics of innovation, how disruption really plays out. So, our mission today,
We're going to cut through the details in these documents, pull up the key insights.
specifically focusing on these four scenarios, the source material identifies when new tech meets old tech.
Yeah, understand what drives each one and what it means for, well, everyone involved.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So what's really fascinating here is how you can take something as, well, as complex as market disruption.
Yeah, innovation seems so messy.
Right. But you can boil it down to a simple framework. This source material does it by looking at just two key variables.
Just two, that really helps simplify things. What are they?
Okay, first you've got the growth opportunity of the existing technology.
The established stuff, right?
Exactly. Think about the tech that's already out there. Is it still improving fast, finding new uses, expanding its market, or is it kind of hitting its ceiling?
Okay, growth potential of the old tech. Got it. What's number two?
Number two is the entry barrier for the new technology.
How hard it is for the new thing to actually get in.
Precisely.
Hmm.
Are we talking huge infrastructure changes needed, massive investment, or just, getting people to change habits? Or is it relatively easy to adopt?
So it's the state of the old tech and how tough it is for the new tech to get a foot in the door.
Uh-huh. And whether each of those is high or low gives us our four scenarios.
Four fundamental scenarios.
Exactly. And the source makes a really compelling case that these two factors pretty much determine the competition and, the speed of change.
Okay, let's dive into the first one then. This sounds like the one we hear about most often.
Right. That leads us to what the source calls creative destruction.
Creative destruction, okay? What are the conditions for that?
This happens when you have minimal growth potential left in the existing tech.
So it's stalled out.
Yeah, pretty much. And crucially, there's a relatively low entry barrier for the new technology.
So the old way isn't getting better, and the new way is easy to bring in. Uh-oh. That sounds like curtains for the established tech.
It often is, yeah.
Huh?
The outcome here is rapid, sometimes really swift market dominance for the new tech.
Because there are no major obstacles.
Right. Few obstacles to adoption, and the existing tech just can't evolve fast enough to, fight back effectively in its main market.
So what do you do if you're caught in this, an established player?
Well, the strategic advice from the source is pretty blunt, really. Accept the inevitable in the main market.
Ouch.
Yeah. And urgently look for niche applications or markets where your tech still holds some unique long-term value.
Find a corner somewhere.
Exactly.
Right.
Meanwhile, the new entrants, well, under these conditions, the source suggests they're naturally set up for aggressive, fast expansion.
The example that jumps out from the source is inkjet printers taking over from dot matrix, right?
Yeah, dot matrix printers.
Yeah.
The noise.
Right. Inkjet came along, quieter, better quality.
And it wasn't prohibitively expensive or hard for most people to switch.
So the main market just evaporated.
Very quickly. But, and this is interesting, the source points out that dot matrix didn't vanish completely.
Oh. Where are they still used?
They still serve really specific niches, like
Yeah.
printing those multi-part carbon forms. Think logistics hubs, maybe post offices, places needing that impact printing.
Ah, so that illustrates the strategy. Find the niche where you're still needed.
Perfectly. So the takeaway for creative destruction, if the old isn't growing and the new is easy to adopt, expect rapid, almost total replacement in the mainstream.
Okay, let's flip that completely then. What's the second scenario?
This one's called robust resilience.
Robust resilience sounds tough.
It is. This happens when you have the exact opposite conditions. High growth potential for the existing tech.
So the old stuff is still getting better.
Uh-huh. And the entry barrier for the new technology is also high.
Okay, so the old tech's improving, and it's really hard for the new stuff to get traction. That doesn't sound like quick change.
It isn't. Not at all. The key here is slow substitution. The old technology manages to hang on to its market leadership for a long, long time.
Why? Because it keeps getting better.
Partly that, it's not a static target, it is improving. And the newcomer faces really significant, persistent hurdles to get widespread adoption.
So what's the strategy here for both sides?
Well, it gets intense. Established players. The advice is to double down, intensify efforts to innovate and expand rapidly, trying to widen that gap.
Keep running ahead.
Exactly. And for the new entrants, the source says they have to absolutely nail their core value proposition. deliver on their promises faster, chip away at those barriers.
It sounds like a long slog.
It is. They need to consistently prove their worth just to hope to eventually challenge the leader.
Okay, what's the example here?
The source uses RFID technology emerging alongside the very established barcode technology.
Barcodes, yeah. They feel like they're everywhere. Hard to imagine replacing them.
Exactly. And that's part of the resilience you see. Barcodes started simple, right? Streamlining grocery checkout.
Mm-hmm.
But they've evolved hugely.
Mm.
Faster scanning, more complex data, used for inventory, logistics, tracking practically
They
anything.
keep finding new uses.
Right. Meanwhile, RFID, which is powerful for certain things like tracking without line of sight.
Yeah, like in warehouses.
Sure, but it's faced higher costs, infrastructure challenges,
Yeah.
things that have stopped it from completely displacing barcodes across all their uses.
So the barcode is a tough moving target.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's robust resilience. The established tech fights back effectively, and the high barriers make replacement a long, drawn-out battle.
Got it. Okay, moving on. Scenario number 3 leads to a different kind of market, you said.
Yeah, this one's robust coexistence.
Okay, coexistence. How do the variables line up for this one?
This happens when you've got substantial growth potential for the existing tech.
So the old way is still improving and expanding.
Right. But the entry barrier for the new technology is relatively low.
Ah, okay. So the old tech still got legs, but the new tech isn't super hard to get started with. Sounds like they could just share the market for a while.
That's exactly the outcome. Instead of replacement, you get robust competition, leading to this extended period where both technologies kind of coexist.
Because they both grow.
Yeah, they each continue to grow, find new markets or use cases, and actively defend their own turf.
What's the strategic play then, if you're not trying to kill each other off immediately?
Well, established players still need to keep innovating and expanding, protect their share.
Defend the territory.
Right, and new entrants. They need to come in aggressively, carve out their space, but fully expect the incumbent to fight back hard. It's competition, but not necessarily destruction.
And the example the source gives seems pretty clear here. Electric cars entering the market alongside traditional petrol and diesel.
Yeah, that's a perfect illustration right
You
now.
do see both improving constantly.
Exactly. Traditional cars with internal combustion engines, they aren't standing still, are they?
Yeah.
Manufacturers are constantly improving fuel efficiency, performance, cutting emissions.
Right.
And at the same time, electric vehicles are entering aggressively. They're building charging networks, increasing range, trying to lower costs.
The barrier for EVs is their charging manufacturing scale, but it's low enough, maybe?
Low enough for new players and established ones pivoting to enter forcefully. Both types of vehicles have significant ongoing development, significant market potential.
Leading to this period of coexistence. Intense, but stable for now.
Exactly. Robust coexistence means the overall market might even get bigger, allowing room for both to thrive, even while competing fiercely.
Okay, that makes sense. Right, that brings us to the fourth and final scenario. What's this one called?
This one's particularly interesting, I think. It's called the illusion of resilience.
Illusion. Okay, why illusion?
Because it describes a situation that looks stable, looks resilient, right up until it suddenly isn't.
How does that happen? What are the variables?
It happens when the growth potential for the existing technology is limited.
So, stagnant old tech again.
Uh-huh. But the entry barrier for the new technology is substantial, really high.
Okay, so the old tech isn't going anywhere exciting, but the new tech is really hard to adopt. What happens then? Does nothing change for a while?
Initially.
Yeah.
Yeah, often that's exactly what it looks like on the surface. The existing tech just maintains its big market share. It looks resilient, but only because the alternative is too difficult or expensive.
So it holds its ground, but isn't really growing.
Right. And this holds true until the new entrants figure out how to dismantle those big entry barriers.
Now, when the barriers fall, what then?
Then the situation flips very, very quickly. You see rapid, almost sudden substitution. It was just an illusion holding things back.
Wow. So what's the strategy if you're a new entrant here?
The critical focus has to be figuring out how to unlock value for users, yes, but most importantly, how to tackle and bring down that main entry barrier. That's the key.
And for the established players,
Right.
the ones living under this illusion.
The source advises they need to be really watching for signs. Those barriers are starting to crumble.
And
then quickly pivot. Start targeting those long-term niche markets, just like in creative destruction, because their main market is about to vanish almost overnight.
The example the source uses really brings this home, doesn't it? It's about mobile phones in India versus the old landlines.
Yeah, it's a great case study. Landlines were established, widespread, but not really growing much anymore.
Stagnant.
Right. Mobile phones were the revolutionary new tech, but initially the cost of the phones themselves was just a massive barrier for most people in India.
So adoption was super slow at first?
Incredibly slow. It looked like landlines were safe.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
It really does. The turning point, the moment that illusion just shattered, was when Reliance Communication launched the Reliant CDMA device.
What was special about that?
It wasn't just another mobile. It was the first genuinely affordable handheld mobile phone aimed squarely at the mass market there.
Ah, so it dramatically lowered the cost barrier.
Exactly. It smashed that main barrier. And once that happened, boom, widespread, rapid adoption of mobiles just exploded.
And suddenly landlines didn't look so resilient anymore.
Not at all. It showed the stability was only there because of the barrier. Once that barrier breaks,
Huh.
expect a sudden, massive shift. That's the core of the illusion of resilience.
Okay, 4 scenarios. Creative destruction, robust resilience, robust coexistence, and this illusion of resilience. So why should you, listening now, care about these patterns? How does knowing this framework actually help?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, understanding these scenarios gives you a really powerful lens, I think, a way to view technological change in almost any industry.
It helps make sense of the disruption buzzword.
Exactly. It helps you move beyond just seeing disruption as this one single thing. You start to recognize the different types of battles, the different speeds of change.
So whether you're defending an old tech or pushing a new one,
Yeah, knowing which scenario you're likely in helps you anticipate what competitors might do, evaluate how fast change might really happen, and basically craft a strategy that works with the market dynamics, not against them.
it's like a shortcut to understanding the underlying forces.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
This source material offers a simple but quite practical tool to make sense of the often, chaotic world of innovation and competition.
And that wraps up our deep dive into these 4 innovation scenarios, all based on those sources you shared with us.
Yeah, good stuff in there.
Our goal, as always, is just to take that material, dive in deep, and pull out the most important, maybe the most actionable insights for you. Give you that shortcut to being informed on the topics you care about.
And thinking about this framework, it raises an important question, doesn't it? Considering these 4 scenarios, creative destruction, robust resilience, robust coexistence, and the illusion of resilience, which of these dynamics do you see playing out most clearly right now in the industries or markets that you follow closely? And maybe more importantly, what does that suggest about the strategic challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead?